And we are live on another episode of the Calcio Connection podcast. We're connecting with you, Italian football fans from all over the world. And this is going to be the type of episode, at least for half the episode, that no matter what club you support, Inter, Juventus, Milan, Lazio, Napoli, Roma, etc., we can all at least join hands and say a prayer together that the Azzurri are going to be able to qualify for the World Cup. We have the playoff. It must-win match just to advance to the finals to try to get to the World Cup. North Macedonia tomorrow. The Azzurri taking on North Macedonia. And if they can get through that matchup, they would take on the winner of Portugal and Turkey. So we keep our fingers crossed, my friends, because just several months removed from winning the Euro and the ecstasy that we all had after winning a major tournament, now we have the Italian national team on the brink of not qualifying for the international tournament that people care about most, and that is World Cup 2022. So very happy to be with you all. Make sure if you're in, whether you're watching us live or you watch via replay, smash the like button, hit the thumbs up button. And if you haven't already, because I noticed that there's a lot of these free rollers, whatever, who will watch the videos and not subscribe to the channel. It costs you nothing. Hit the subscribe button and subscribe to Calcio Connection on YouTube and, of course, on our podcast page as well. I am Alex Donno, and before we introduce our guests, let me introduce my co-host who you look, Jerry, are you trying to set the mood? You're very nervous about tomorrow's matchup. It's very dark in your den there, in your bat cave. How are you, Jerry Mancini?
I want to say you must be a happy guy today before we talk a little football here. You got Tyreek Hill in the house, eh? For all you NFL fans out there in Dolphin Nation, I want to say something. No excuses for that piece of shit, Tua. Okay? No excuses for that piece of shit. If he lays a dud this year, I'm gonna troll him even more. I troll him because it's fun, because you do it. I'll be honest. I follow the bandwagon, and
you see how angry people get. You had this one guy 2 weeks ago. I had Jerry trolling Tua on Twitter. And there was this guy that was he was trying to insult Jerry personally because Jerry insulted the quarterback of his NFL. It's crazy how sensitive people get over Tua.
I won't get offended. It's Tua. He means nothing to me. If it was Immobile, maybe a little bit more, but
yeah,
but it's Tua. I don't care, man. But am I nervous for tomorrow? I'm nervous every game when it comes to the Azzurri. Let's just get it down. Yeah. Win or lose, I'm happy with what Roberto Mancini has done with this team. He's kind of instilled a paved way for the future, and he's given an identity, a clear path. If just let's just say that Ventura was still the manager for another 2 more years, and they stayed on with him, we would be 6 years back, I believe, personally. It's a disaster. But I know that I tweeted this out today. The biggest concern I have is I know that everyone's pointing at Ciro Immobile and if he's going to score. I'm more concerned with the fullbacks. That's what I'm concerned about because I think that Spinazzola and Di Lorenzo are so big in our offense because of their overlapping and ability to kind of advance the ball into the final third. I don't know we're going to get that with Emerson and Florenzi. They're just two different types of players who are just not that quick and very mentally sound when it comes to that kind of area of the game. And secondly, I think the second thing that kind of that is in control tomorrow is Marco Verratti. Everything flows through him. And when he's at his best, Italy is at their best. And I see that with PSG as well, where even though there are millions of dollars in their team, I mean millions, it doesn't matter to me because Verratti is what controls PSG as well. He's just like the engine of the team where everything goes around him. And when he's off, I feel like other players kind of tail off as well.
No, that's well said, and I like and welcome into the live chat our friend Mike No Go Zones, who like Jerry is a Lazio supporter. So you guys, rough, very rough weekend. The year coming out,
rough decades. Never mind,
very
rough weekend.
Yeah, but he brings up a good point that the match is. I neglected to mention the match is a home match for Italy. It's being played in Palermo. Let me introduce our guest for today. Let me start with a man who's joining us for the first time. So happy. We've been Twitter pals for a little bit. Happy to finally connect on the pod. He does an awesome job on his own pod, Area di Rigore, bringing in Dharnish Iqbal. Dharnish, welcome in, sir. How you doing?
Thanks for having me. Yeah, good. I mean, it's international break. I'm actually pretty good because Man United aren't ruining my weekend and ruining my week. So I'm in a pretty good mood to just talk shop about like international teams and gladly sit on the fence and have it not affect me at all.
Yeah, no, and listen, I'm happy to be able to chat with you. And like we mentioned, oh, and sorry, I apologize there, Mike. Do not mention the derby. I already mentioned it. I apologize. Sorry, boys. Insane run at the Euros, says Cartier 6X. Mancini ball is proper. There was definitely a Euro hangover, and let's bring in our next guest. It's funny because I knew Jerry and I knew Rob Pizzola before I ever knew a few years ago that they knew each other, and they've actually known each other since they were kids. So this is one of those like small world type of things. A couple of years back when I figured out, wait, you guys know each other? Rob and Jerry's known Rob a lot longer than me, but I've had the privilege of knowing Rob for a few years. He's a professional sports bettor, and so man, he can help us break down all the lines and odds for this one. Rob, welcome in. How you doing?
I'm doing well, Alex. Yeah, I mean, I personally am a huge soccer fan, but I don't bet on soccer personally because, I come from a stats and math background, and I've just never really gotten around to soccer. So people just assume that, I don't really, know much about soccer, but it's a huge pastime for me. I love the Serie A, love these, international breaks as well and stuff like that. So looking forward to breaking it down. I am definitely nervous for the Azzurri tomorrow, even though they are massive favorites to advance. They're minus 1,200 to advance, which is roughly a 92% probability that they will advance to the match against the winner of Portugal or Turkey. With that said, not having Federico Chiesa scares me because you're going to get so much of North Macedonia playing behind the ball, like pretty much every player behind the ball, defend at all costs. I don't love the creativity that they don't have on the field when Chiesa's out there. That's not to say that obviously they're big favorites. They should probably win the game, but we've seen them struggle in these instances where they need to score a goal. We saw it against Northern Ireland, right? In the last game of qualifying as well. So they have a lot of these games where it's just, sometimes they just lack the creativity. And as Jerry mentioned, not, having your starting fullbacks either with those overlapping runs. I think that hurts. Although we did see Emerson in this role in the Euros, and he fared fine when he was in there as well. But yeah, definitely some nerves as an Italian, not only for this match, but a potential obviously against Portugal as well.
Yeah, it's a long road still. It certainly is. And I think this could be one of those, like, you mentioned the Northern Ireland game. This could end up, and again, Italy, huge favorites to advance. But are we going to have to wait until 89th, 90th minute for, the game-winning goal? Are we going to have to wait until extra time, penalties? Like, as an Italian football fan, you expect the most suspenseful. It always comes down that way with Italy. Whatever international tournament it's been that they've won over the years or reached the final in over the years, because one of my major introductions into international football, I was born in 1984. And I have so many memories of the 1994 World Cup where Italy ultimately got to the final. And every game that they won through that tournament, just heart palpitations. Like there was always drama every freaking game. And then in the final itself, against Brazil. They were outplayed for the most part, but it still got through extra time into penalty kicks, and it came down to my guy Baggio putting it over the crossbar. So I'm used to heart palpitations with this team. And Dharnish, what are you expecting, man? Because the odds are what they are. This shouldn't really be a suspenseful affair. I thought Jerry brought up a great point about worrying a little bit about the football, about the fullback play. Rob talking about creativity to kind of break through and get that goal. I am pretty confident that Italy should be able to control the midfield with the trio of Barella, Jorginho, and Verratti, like Jerry was talking about. So I feel pretty good about that area of the pitch. How do you expect this game to play out tomorrow, Dharnish?
I mean, maybe I can be I always go to neutrals who are sort of watching, like, I'm a Man United fan, obviously. Bit shit this year, but whatever. I always go to neutrals in terms of, I think it's normal to be nervous about your team whenever you play, even if you're playing really good. The natural instinct before a game is just to be fucking nervous about it because that's just the way it is. So me as a neutral, I can maybe offer you some calm. Italy should be winning this. Italy should easily be winning this. Having said all of those things, Italy should not be where they are now. Italy should have 3 points in at least one of their 5 games that they came back from after the Euros. They only won one game. That was against Lithuania. It was 5-0. And then they drew against Northern Ireland. They drew against Switzerland twice. The key thing there is, I know Jay Mancini's made a great point about in the Euros, Spinazzola was really important, combining with Lorenzo Insigne down the left. When he left as well, because when he got injured against Spain, I think that you weren't as good. In England, I thought you dominated us. By the way, English fan, you talk about heart palpitations and heartbreaks. Yeah, you beat us in the final. Enjoy. I thought he was a big miss for the Euros that he missed, and I think that he is still going to be a big miss, like Jerry said. I'm surprised that David Calabria was not picked. He's had a great season with Milan. He can definitely offer some forward impetus, and I'm surprised Mancini hasn't picked him. In terms of midfield, you mentioned Barella, Jorginho, and Verratti. Are we absolutely sure that those three are going to play, or maybe he can go with the Locatelli or?
No, it's a good and Rob, you can pick up on that point as well. But in the projected 11s I've seen, that's the trio. But obviously, up until about an hour before kickoff, we don't know for sure. What do you think, Rob?
I think Mancini came out and said that he wants to stick with as close to his starting Euro squad as possible because they haven't had a lot of time to prepare for this match. So that would be my expectation, is that those 3 guys play. If Italy's struggling to score, I could see potentially Barella coming off maybe 60th minute and a Pellegrini coming in or something like that, because Verratti, Jorginho, Barella is a very steady midfield. Like, they're going to dominate the midfield play, but they, outside of Barella, they don't really offer a lot going forwards, right? And those runs into the boxes, we saw it at the Euros. Barella can do that, but Pellegrini is very suited for that as well. Locatelli as well. So might see some subs if it's still 0-0 or Italy's, God forbid, chasing a goal at some point, which I think is highly unlikely. But you never know. I've watched sports my whole life, and I've seen Greece make a run to to a Euro. So anything can happen, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like you said, though, that's a good point, and that's one thing that worked really well for the Euros. If Mancini needed something from the bench, it was like, okay, fine, I can unleash a Chiesa, or I need a bit of ingenuity here. I need to break lines. Locatelli, go ahead. There you go. Or Pellegrini, like you said. I think the big hullabaloo around Italy, or the big storyline around it, Jerry, I'm not sure how much you like this, has been about Ciro Immobile, and whether he scored twice in the Euros only, has scored only twice during qualifying. I can only see, if he's going as close as possibly can to the Euros lineup, I can only see him playing probably Berardi. Insigne has been sort of patchy this year. Berardi, Insigne, and I cannot see anybody else apart from Gianluca Scamacca playing up front.
You know what? I think the most important thing for Immobile, even if he doesn't score, is just to be effective in several ways. May it be chasing balls down like he does with Lazio in a 4-3-3 and kind of assist the defense to recover, getting into areas to draw players out of position so he can create space for guys like Insigne and Berardi, because especially Berardi more than Insigne, because I think that he is kind of that false striker kind of guy where he has the ability to score as well if it's not Immobile. But I think Immobile just has to be confident and just do what he does best, and that's just play physical, be relentless. And I'm hoping one thing is that the midfield try to kind of get passes towards him in behind the defense. I know a lot of people say that Immobile is bad. He doesn't produce. What I don't like, and I've seen a lot of games, and maybe you guys can probably, maybe I'm wrong, is that I see a lot of the time Immobile makes those runs on the shoulder of a defense, anticipating a long pass in behind the defense. And if you guys watched the game on Sunday, you watched that Azzurri made a nice long ball pass. And I think it was one of the rare key positive moments for Lazio on Sunday in a shit game where Immobile brought the ball down brilliantly, just couldn't get the run. But still, you see that he's really effective when he's making runs in behind the defense. And I'd like to see that maybe from a Barella standpoint or a Jorginho. I know that Verratti's not that guy, but probably more Jorginho, where he can kind of catch defenses offline and get Immobile where he's most effective. And I think that's the most really frustrating part, is that I always have to hear people say, well, that's not Mancini's kind of way. And I agree that you don't want to break away what you're accustomed to, your style, but you also have to think that you need to get your striker involved. And you at times in key moments, you need to figure out, okay, yeah, we do short passes. Yeah, we build from the back. Yeah, we go from right to left or whatever it may be. But you also have to be inventive and say, okay, our number 9 has to score tomorrow. So how do we get Immobile involved as well? So it's always the same thing that, oh, Immobile didn't show up. He looks lost on the pitch. He's running in circles. Well, when you don't use a player to his best abilities, what do you want him to do, man? Like, it's like training a dog how to walk forward, and somehow you figured out how to make him go right instead of left. And it's like, I don't know. I like to hear what you guys think about Immobile, because like he's pivotal tomorrow, man.
Well, and let's pick up on that with our pal Masricho, who he is a Roma supporter, but most importantly, he is an Azzurri supporter, and that's something that he, Jerry, Rob, and I can agree on. And of course, we have Dharnish is the voice of reason, because he's an England fan, so he can give us the unbiased opinions. But Matt, let's pick up on that, man, because Jerry was just talking about Ciro Immobile and the role that he's going to play, and there has been a lack of goal scoring when he puts on the Azzurri shirt. How pivotal do you think he's going to be in this matchup with North Macedonia tomorrow?
Well, if I'm not mistaken, I think Mancini likes to play a 4-3-3, right?
Yes. So
I feel, Jerry, correct me if I'm wrong, this season Sarri's been mostly playing a 4-3-3.
Yeah, and to add a stat, of the 21 goals that Immobile has scored in Serie A, 15 have come from open play in the 4-3-3. And I think that's really impressive, to be honest, because someone who's known to be a penalty merchant, and I'll be honest, 2019-20, there's the stats are there. Rob, knowing he's a number guy, you can't run away from it. But I think I've been impressed with how Immobile has played under Sarri, but there's the counterattack that Sarri kind of has a different 4-3-3 philosophy to Mancini. So, but it does help him. I do agree.
For sure. So we'll see how that goes. I mean, look, he's adapted pretty well under Sarri in a 4-3-3. Obviously, their approaches are vastly different, but we can't discount, and we've spoken about it plenty of times during the Euros when everyone was on Chiro's back. He does so much off the ball to give space to other players. And I don't know what it is, if it's the fair weather fans or just some really stubborn fans, but a striker shouldn't necessarily be. Yeah, you want him to score goals, but there's so much more that they can do off the ball. And he really opens up play for a lot of players. Like, I think he has his goal against Spain was off the ball movement from Immobile in the Euros. So, if the people can see beyond that, like, obviously you want your striker scoring, but there's so much more to the position than just putting the ball behind the net. And that's what people need to understand. So I think Immobile's impact is greatly undermined from the lack of goals in an Azzurri shirt, but he does so much more off the ball that does improve the team that much better. So we'll see, but I'm hoping he silences some doubters. He seems to be in pretty good form. He looked good against Roma during the derby. He didn't get any goals, obviously, but he looked pretty good. So,
I mean, I to an extent I understand the criticism, but I hope people get the full context, because what Mass just did there was he gave context that Immobile does a lot more that doesn't always show up on the stat sheet. Okay, at the same time, I do understand the criticism. Also, people like to troll, right? People like to, Roma fans, and not Mass. Mass is one of the more adult, sensible ones that doesn't, they're not just going to banter Cheeto for the sake of bantering him. So there is some of that comes to play. But I also get it when you're putting on the national team shirt and you're the starting number 9 and you've been consistently at that role for the last few years. There's an expectation of scoring goals. Like that's the that's a big part of what comes with playing that position. And I guess, Rob, if you want to pick up on that point about Immobile, what sort of an impact do you expect him to have tomorrow? And then hopefully, if Italy do advance, what type of impact does he need to have over these next 2 games?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that you can discuss with Immobile. I mean, obviously the lack of success with the Azzurri, especially against better competition, that's, it's noted. He hasn't scored at the same rate that he scored for a club, plain and simple. But the reality is people don't really offer up solutions in terms of, I mean, who is better than Immobile as an Italian striker right now? There's not really an alternative. I mean, people were calling for it in the Euro, right? Let's see Belotti start. Every time Belotti came on as a sub for Immobile, it wasn't good. I mean, he just he didn't have the same pace. He can't, I mean, there's just no one at Immobile's level in an Italian jersey right now. I understand that there's some future players, but now is now, and he's definitely the best option. He does a lot of stuff off the ball. Completely agree with that. Makes very good, dangerous runs, opens up space for other players. And on top of that, he's actually a pretty underrated finisher, if people can believe that. But I mean, if you look at advanced metrics, he has 17 expected goals this year. In Serie A, he scored 21. So he's outperforming his expected goals. He did that last year as well. 3 years ago, he had 28 expected goals. He scored 36. He's pretty consistently outperforming his expected goals. He's a way better finisher than people give him credit for. I don't know why it hasn't worked on the international stage. I really don't. I do think that it's going to be difficult tomorrow. Like North Macedonia is really going to clog the middle of the field. They are going to force Italy to attack on the wings and play some balls into the box. You don't have like a Bonucci even as center back who can play that long ball either over the top or anything like that, which is, I'm a Juve fan, but I'm not even really a big Bonucci fan. I think they will miss him tomorrow from the sense that he can play that ball over the top. So I think it's going to be, it's going to be a struggle until Italy scores that first goal. Then North Macedonia has to open up. Then Italy can really hit them. Because the midfield is just so much more dominant. But yeah, Immobile, to me, not a great track record at the international levels. Got to turn it around, but he does a lot of stuff off the ball. And on top of that, there's just not a better option. There really isn't. So I think people just need to swallow their opinions of, Belotti should be the starter. It's night and day relative to what the alternatives are for Italy up front.
No, you're 1,000% right. I mean, I think that there's some possibilities like for the next generation, and like Cheeto's in his 30s. When you look at guys like Raspadori and Scamacca, like there are going to be options in the future. But for right now, there's not a better option on paper than Immobile. And Dharnish, I'll give you the last word on Immobile. I mean, you watched him throughout the Euros. You've seen his ups in Serie A, some of the downs for the Azzurri shirt. What kind of an impact do you expect him to have in this next game? Hopefully, next 2 games.
Well, I mean, if it's true, like you said, and Mancini wants to stick as close to possible as to the Italy lineup that won the Euros, he clearly knows that these guys were in the trenches when it mattered. And these guys gave me what I needed when it mattered. Antonio Conte, who was a pundit during the Euros, said that I don't see the hype around Immobile, not in a negative way. He said that I don't see the hype as in, I don't see what the problem is. He still performs almost exactly like he does for Lazio, but he performs for Italy as well. It's just the goals are not there. He still makes great runs in behind. He links up brilliantly from the left half spaces. I think that getting crosses into the box will be very, very important for Italy if they can do that. But like Mancini has already commented, the fullbacks may be a little bit more of a worry. Immobile still, I think, should have a say in these next two games. If like you said, I mean, I'd like to get your opinion on this, but maybe see how Ciro Immobile is doing for 60 minutes, and then maybe bring on a Scamacca then, or a Raspadori with 20 or maybe even 10 minutes to go, because it doesn't like it's not going to be a free-flowing attacking game. It's going to be low-block city against Macedonia. I don't know what everybody thinks of that.
Personally, I think if it's in a situation late and it's like must score to advance, I don't know, unless Immobile is just having such a bad game, I think they'd probably keep him in and bring on an extra striker, maybe like
Yeah.
replace a midfielder for a striker. If Italy is like needing a goal or chasing a goal to try a tie, I think they'd probably leave him on and just add somebody else. You agree, Jerry?
We've seen Mancini go with a false nine, and I don't know if he'll risk it tomorrow again. It's possible, but who did they use as a false nine in the Euros? Was it
Insigne.
Insigne?
Insigne.
Exactly.
And he
then in the last two qualifiers, it was Insigne as well.
Right.
Or for one of them.
I'm mixed on it. It somehow it worked in the Euros, but it didn't look like the greatest idea as well. Insigne looks really lost when he plays as a false nine to me. He just looks out of position. It's like a guy playing a new role, and all of a sudden you're just throwing him out there and hoping for the best. I'm not sure if Mancini wants to roll the dice, but I think at the end of the day, it's true. The only way he went to a false nine was that Immobile was just suffocated, and he couldn't do anything against England. I thought that against Spain, when they scored, they should have left him out because it worked to his advantage, because when you're up 1-0, all of a sudden the defense can now they open up space and they advance forward. So that's where Cheeto becomes very effective. And I remember Nima was talking about that during the Euros, and he said that I don't know why Immobile came off. Anytime the team, if Italy's in the lead, like Rob said, you don't take Immobile off. That's where Immobile will be most effective, because like Rob said, and like you guys said, if you're playing a low block, it's kind of hard for him. But when you're trying to chase the game, that's where he becomes very effective, and that's where his game can really come into play. So it all depends how the game plays out. And I think the most important thing is that Italy can't just like be conservative and pass the ball and try to figure a way to get into the box. They just have to attack and just play fearless, because by you being very passive and conservative is just going to lead to shootout, and you're going to have to hope for the best. And it's not the best scenario. Like, you make a mistake and you're on the counter attack, whatever. But like, you got to take your chances. I just don't want to see that. I've seen Lazio, for example, where they played Atalanta earlier and they tied 0-0, and they played 9 guys in a box and suffocating Immobile, but they didn't really do anything to really attack, and they just kept on passing, and I can see Italy going to that route, and it scares me. But I'll end it there, and I think I can kind of leave the segue to another important topic, and it's Francesco Azzurri versus Gianluca Mancini. And I'll give you my honest opinion. Mancini. You go with Mancini. You start Mancini. I know that, Rob, you're talking about...
I have my doubt just for one reason, and that's experience. Acerbi, he's played in so many of these important matches with the Azzurri shirt on. That's just the one thing. He's got so much more experience. If I'm just evaluating player versus player, then yeah, right now I'd say Mancini. But just, man, I don't know. Given the situation and the gravity of it, I think I lean to Acerbi.
Form. I think form is so important, guys.
My biggest concern with Mancini is his discipline. He's got
hothead
issues with. Yeah, he's a hothead. It's tough.
So you take him out on a yellow card. That's all.
Yeah, but what if it's a straight red, Jerry? You can't take a guy out on a straight red.
He's a decent defender. He's done well. My biggest concern always is discipline. He's a hothead. It's problematic.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the thing with Acerbi is if Bastoni's playing, then you have 2 left-footed center backs, right?
That's a good point. Yeah.
Which Honestly, it shouldn't matter who they put at center back is the reality of the situation. They should be able to control play. Italy's probably going to have something like 75, 80% possession in this game. It's the counters where, I mean, I suspect, you're going to have at least two guys, Verratti, Jorginho, who are playing deep, a little bit deeper as well, so that they don't get completely hit on a counter or something like that. But it shouldn't matter. But I mean, for me, I just don't think Acerbi's had a great year. I think he struggled. There's been a lot of games where he's noticeably been bad. Like, you could pick him out as being the worst player on the pitch too many times this year. And I get that he's the experienced one, and Bastoni's only, 22, 23, something like that. And then you'd put Mancini in there, who's mid-20s as well. But to me, I go with the guys who are in better form, personally. And to me, Acerbi is – I've watched too many times this year where I'm like, this guy's gone way downhill.
Something else I want to go around the table on.
I actually want to add on that about Acerbi, though, what Rob was saying. And I agree. The first half of the season, he was very bad. And I think that settling under Sarri was difficult for a lot of players. And it's very technical. And then he picks up an injury. And that kind of set him back. Being 34 years old, 35 doesn't help either. And when he returned from injury, he got into that incident with the Curva. And that was the stupidest thing he could have ever done in his life, because this guy's so fragile and so emotional that it messes up his head. And that's another thing I wanted to talk about, is that with the Azzurri, I don't know, their fans won't be booing him tomorrow. That is a very big factor I think we need to take into effect, that when you're playing the Derby on Sunday and your own fans are booing you in the biggest game of the season, for Lazio specifically, the Derby is the biggest game, and your own fans are booing you, not only are you playing poorly lately and you just came back from an injury and you're trying to adjust to Sarri and you're trying to do everything, and Sarri's actually gone on record and saying that he doesn't want the fans to attack him. It doesn't help his game. You've seen the pass he made to no one. You've seen like the dribbling he made in the first minute that conceded a corner that resulted in a disastrous goal. I wonder, maybe you guys, what do you think that the fact that most Lazio players are bad? Well, yeah, when your owner is a fucking cheap fuck, what do you want?
I love
cheap
Figo.
Fucking owner, yeah. We call it as it is. Yeah, most of them are bad. I agree. But what do you think the fact that Acerbi is not playing at the Stadio Olimpico? He's playing in Palermo, neutral ground, no Lazio fans. Do you think that maybe will help him?
It can't hurt.
Yeah.
What do you think, Dharnish?
I think he's had sort of an average season, like you said, but Sarismo is like very, very difficult and super, super stubborn to adapt to. I think Lazio, we're seeing now, aside from the result of the weekend, are slowly, gradually getting better. So I think it's took all of them to adapt. Having said that, for me, it's got to be Mancini next to Bastoni. By the way, I think Bastoni has to play. Go on form, like Jerry said, go on form. I think Mancini next to Bastoni. But a quick word to put on Alessandro Bastoni. We talk about Italy playing a low block tomorrow, and they're going to need to think about creatively attacking Macedonia in different ways. I think one of these could be, I don't know if you've probably seen Bastoni play in quite a few Inter games this year. He does something called, I call it the Bastoni overlap. He's probably the best overlapping centre-back I've seen this year for me in the world. He will go to the left channel, wherever the winger is with Perisic, and he either underlaps or he overlaps, which basically means he will go past Perisic on the left, or he will come inside and basically cause an overload. So I think that could be one way where they could attack Macedonia differently. So for me, Bastoni has to play, and I'll go Mancini as well. Not you, Jerry. Obviously, you can't play, but Mancini for Roma.
Please, not Jerry. We're in big trouble.
If I was playing, man, I would pull a Gattuso. I would just fucking try to make someone headbutt. No, that was Materazzi, but I would.
Materazzi.
I would pull a Materazzi and just get someone. I would just call someone's mother or something and get headbutted in the head and fuck it, man. First 5 minutes, just get busted right open. See you later. Have a nice day.
Then you have the whole country after you.
No,
Yeah.
it's only Zidane after him.
Yeah. And I thought Dharnish brought up a great point on Bastoni. I want to go over around the table on one more thing with the Azzurri, and then we can talk a little bit about the Serie A table. So, Jerry, I'll start with you on this one. There's a lot of people wondering what happens with your namesake, Roberto Mancini, with the Italian national team if they don't qualify for the World Cup. And remember, they have to do winning tomorrow is the first step, and then they play in the final for this playoff, which will either be likely against Portugal, but either against Portugal or Turkey. So they have to win 2 more matches just to get to the World Cup. If they fail to qualify, do you think it's the end of the road for Mancini with the Azzurri? And remember, it may not just be the federation coming out and saying, we're sacking you, get the hell out. I think it's possible that there could be like a mutual parting of the ways if they don't qualify for the World Cup, or maybe the federation decides maybe it's time for a fresh start. Maybe Mancini decides I want to go back and manage a club somewhere. Do you think that this could be the end of the road for him if they don't qualify?
That's hard to say, man. I think that even if he didn't qualify tomorrow and they exit it, I think it would be mutual. I think out of respect, for what he has been able to accomplish, not only just results, but just kind of like getting Italy back from off the ground and back to something. I think they'll give him the choice. If he wants to stay, I think they'll let him stay. And if he wants to leave, which I think he wants to leave personally,
yeah, I think he would.
I think he's had enough of where I don't remember the last Azzurri manager that has outlast. Maybe Lippi was the longest we had, who went 8 years or something like that, or 6 or 8 years, and went long and overstayed his due, from what I remember. So it's very rare you see Italian coaches stay for so long. It's like a short-term gig for me. You come 4 to 6 years at max, and then the next guy comes in, because it's like,
and for any manager, like coaching a national team, like it's a great honor, especially if you win important hardware. And he did win a Euro, which is unbelievable. It's only happened for Italy twice, but it's like I don't really see it. It's not really the end game for anybody, right? Because you're in this weird ass situation where you only get these players for a couple of weeks. They don't get to practice with each other a whole lot. It's so different. It's so different from managing a club. That usually like great managers who went Conte managed the national team not too long ago, didn't stay at it too long because it's usually a transition, right? It's like career rehabilitation or kind of a stop you make, it's like a layover on a big flight. It's like not really something you want to do forever.
I'd like to see him come back to Serie A. That if that's the thing, I'd like to see him coach Italian team in Serie A, like a top Champions League team, like a Juventus, a Napoli, a Milan, or an Inter. Like that's what I want to see. I think that's what I would prefer, but who knows, right? There's a lot of teams that'll splash cash at him.
Would any of those top or the Seven Sisters take him right now?
No.
I
mean, I could say as a Juve fan, I'd love to have him over Allegri right now, but it wouldn't happen. Like Juve's not getting rid of Allegri. Yeah.
But how many coaches do you guys want on payroll too?
Right.
I'm just speaking hypothetically. I'm just throwing it out that's what I would like to see Mancini do.
Yeah.
Will it happen? Probably, like you said, these coaches are all tied up, right? Like me, it's a dream world if he came to Lazio. Fuck, what do you want to deal with a cheap ass owner? Fucking.
Yeah, but Jerry, you guys need continuity. You guys firing Sarri now while the team.
We need an owner. We need an owner who's ambitious.
That's your biggest problem. It stems in ownership. I don't think it's your coach.
I think
Matt Mass, let me ask you next, and then Rob and Dharnish. But Mass, let me get to you. What do you think happens with Mancini? And obviously, this is a hypothetical because if Italy qualifies, he's going to manage the side in the World Cup. But if they don't qualify, and you could probably argue there's less than a 50% chance they do because they would have to play in Portugal for the final, and that would not be easy. So if they don't qualify, do you think it's the end of the road for Mancini with Italy?
I'm gonna go. It's gonna be a mutual parting of ways, just for the sake of respect for Mancini. It would be nice to see some continuity on the national team level, because I feel like tenures in general, like you said, it's just they're all very short lived. It's like a tournament or two at best, and everyone just goes their own way, coaches another top club when they're looking for a replacement, or so it would be a mutual parting of ways. But I'm still trying to get over the fact that Italy and Portugal you're going to have a World Cup without either the European champions or without Ronaldo, and which is possibly his last World Cup on top of it. I really don't think he plays another international tournament after this.
I feel like the referees will be very aware of that. That like, hey, if we blow this whistle in certain situations, we might be keeping Ronaldo out of the World Cup. I'm just throwing that out there.
That's what's giving me anxiety about this matchup. I mean, obviously we have to get past North Macedonia, but I wouldn't be shocked to see some really bad calls against Turkey. It wouldn't shock me. So I think it's probably a mutual parting of the ways. I'd like to see some continuity, though. I would like to see a coach actually stay for multiple tournaments, try and get something going. We'll see.
What about you, Rob? What do you think?
Sorry, I'm muting myself here. I mean, if they don't make the World Cup, I think he's gone, but I do think it will be under his own terms. I mean, he's earned that, obviously, after winning the Euro, so it'll be a resignation rather than a firing. I believe he's actually come out and publicly said that Qatar would be the last major tournament he coached. I could be wrong about that.
I think you're right.
I'm pretty sure that he did already say that. And yeah, I mean, there's been no continuity for Italy for several years now. I think the longest was actually Trapattoni in the early 2000s, because he had that run of 4 years. Lippi actually had the 2 stints, right? Because he left, and there was someone in between. I can't remember who it was.
He came back. Okay.
Donadoni, maybe. Donadoni. It could have been. I don't remember who it was. Yeah, we'll find out. But I mean, he's earned the opportunity to leave under his own terms if that happens. And I mean, it would be super unfortunate to have the Euro, champion not in the World Cup. Don't get me started on not getting automatic bids or anything like that, because I think they're should be. I think that winning a tournament of that prestige should warrant an automatic bid into the World Cup. But at the end of the day, I mean, if you can't win a group where you're losing to Switzerland and then you can't get over, potentially North Macedonia or something like that, maybe you don't deserve to be there. But I don't know. I was not a big Mancini fan before he took the reins for the Azzurri, and I've really come around on him just because of the quality that the side's been for a long time now, and the stability that they've had under him. It'd be difficult to replace, is the reality of the situation.
Rob's right. It was Roberto Donadoni. Yeah, Lippi, Donadoni, and then Lippi, and then Prandelli, and then Conte, and then some fucking idiot named Gianpiero Ventura. What the fuck?
I'm still upset about that.
He must not be named.
Oh man,
but yeah, look at these coaches we have. Enzo Berzotte. We had some good things in the back in the day. Fulvio Bernardini. We had Arrigo Sacchi. That was, what, man? Arrigo Sacchi.
He wasn't great with the Azzurri, because you can't
you don't
play.
Think so?
No, you couldn't. Because the thing is, a national team that only comes together, a couple weeks every few months, you couldn't play his press and his system. It didn't work. Like, they miraculously got to a World Cup final, and I think every player on that team wanted to strangle him. Like, they did not like playing for him on the national team.
Really, I don't remember. I was never. I grew up in the 90s, just having fun watching it, with Rob and the guys. And you know what? It's funny. Maybe Rob remembers during World Cup '94, a guy, our neighbor, Giancarlo Bancheri, on our street, we used to do this soccer shootout in the backyard, and we would pick countries, and we would pretend like it was the World Cup, and we would have these scrimmages in the backyard, and we would end up doing shootouts, and it was a perfect backyard to do it. But it was so much fun, man. I thought that it's something that us as friends growing up doing it, but it was we would make up countries we'd have to choose, and I just remember World Cup '94 was the best World Cup, I think, and I guess maybe growing up, and
I'll take 06 over 2000.
No, absolutely. For that reason, yes. But I just remember that I absolutely, like, you're right. I'm saying as celebration, even though we lost that final, I just remember like that road to the actual finals was so exciting, and
Yeah.
how the community was so really involved in the Azzurri. I found it was more invested than it was in 2006, even though we won. Like, I found more flags, maybe because it was Brazil and Italy in the final, and then like how we got there. Bulgaria, I think, was one of the most like underrated teams
I think
during
that
that
was. I
World
think it was in
Cup
the
as well.
semifinal. I think is when Italy beat the Italy
Bulgaria was
eliminated. I think
really
it was the
big.
semifinal they got all the way
USA
to.
was big too.
Yeah.
USA did really well in
Because
that
what
World
and
Cup.
that's what and it was in USA. That was my big memory. Like, being based in the United States. I know the rest of you guys are either Canadian or English, so I'm the only United States based. And yeah, I was, I think, 9 years old, about to turn 10 when that World Cup was happening. And it was a big deal. Unfortunately, they never brought a match to Miami. I think the closest they ever brought a match to was Orlando. And I was like, I don't think Italy played that far south though, but I was like begging my father, like, you got to take me to a game. He didn't do it. He's cheap ass. He didn't take me to. He would have gone if they'd been in Miami, but he wasn't gonna take me somewhere. But yeah, no, it was a big deal. It was a big deal. And living in Miami, there are a lot of Brazilians down here, so I can just remember going shopping with my mom, and I would wear, like, for that entire World Cup, I had an Italy jersey that I wore everywhere, like the same jersey. It probably smelled terrible. I wore it for like 3 weeks. I wore this Italy jersey, and I remember, like, when my mom would take me out somewhere, I saw these people before the final, Brazilian flags. Everybody's Brazilian. I'm like, why are there no Italians? Like, why do I not say everybody's Brazilian everywhere? A lot of Brazilians down here in Miami, so that's for sure.
Like, don't get me wrong, the World Cup 2006 final, like the celebration was probably the biggest, but
Oh yeah,
I just remember every game that we won in the World Cup '94 was just so much fun that I couldn't wait to get to like this place called Market Lane down where we live, and it's like the main hub to like celebrate Dundas and like St. Clair. And I found like this past Euro and just in general, like it's really dipped off the celebrations, and I found that there were more overpopulated at that time. Maybe it was bigger. I don't know what it was, but that.
I mean, it was COVID, Jerry. There was COVID across North
Oh yeah,
America.
that's right.
No one
Just
could
COVID.
go out to watch these games.
Good point. It's COVID. Yeah, good point. We don't live in Florida. I forgot
right,
about
exactly.
that.
Yeah, I'm the
We don't
only one where
live
they
in Florida.
pretend COVID never existed down here.
I'm gonna be honest. I always forget that even COVID exists a lot of times. Honest to God.
Yeah. I mean,
Like,
now, yeah, it just feels
Yeah.
like a bad dream. I just want to interject here. Was
Go
the
ahead.
90? Because I mean, I was born in '94, so obviously I don't remember shit from that World Cup. But was '94 World Cup? Is that the one where the opening ceremony was that singer, Diana Ross?
I don't remember the opening ceremony.
Because I always remember they always replay like.
Huh.
They had like Diana Ross taking a penalty and she had to score and she missed, and then the net sort of imploded like this, and they're just like, oh shit, it's gone there. Let's just carry on anyway. It was like Diana missed his penalty and they carried on. But yeah. So you, if you don't mind me asking, how old were you guys during World Cup '94?
Jerry's Jerry's a year older than me, and he's born in '85, so he was 9 years old. I was 8 years old.
Oh shit. Okay.
I barely remember it. Like, I remember watching the games, but I don't remember it well enough. Like 2006, I remember like it was yesterday, right? My mother and sister were actually in Italy for that World Cup. Jerry would have been at my house for the semifinals against Germany, which I mean, I remember every minute of that game.
We were at your Carlos' house
for the finals
and the semis. I remember watching. Are you sure?
Incorrect. Yes.
I trust Rob's memory over Jerry's.
I thought we were at Rob. I thought we were at your Carlos' house for the semis.
Incorrect.
I don't remember being at your house.
You don't remember a lot of things, Jerry.
Yeah.
I'm telling you where you were.
I still remember we got fucked in 2002 against fucking Korea.
Oh, that was terrible.
Yeah. That was awful.
Crooked refereeing.
Fucking bullshit.
Questionable calls for Korea. I'm not even much of a football conspiracy theorist, but there's like, those YouTube videos that say a conspiracy, Italy, Korea. And I was watching this shit like they should have probably at least got like a few red cards in that game. And some of the calls were very questionable.
Italy got boned in that game because of Francesco Totti red. They gave him a second yellow for simulation where he was clearly fouled. But I will say with that tournament, Anyone who thinks Italy got it bad, go watch the Spain South Korea highlights from the
Oh,
next game.
I don't
And
even
they
remember
were
that
so
one.
much worse. Spain
Even
got
Portugal,
hosed so
I
hard.
remember their golden era getting really like they were at the peak of their golden era, Portugal, that
Yeah.
tournament, and they really got it bad.
Yeah.
And then there was what? Was it 2000 or 98 where fucking we got fucked by France and their stupid golden goal
98.
bullshit?
98.
Fucking bullshit,
Yeah.
man. What a
I remember
fucking
98.
Golden
I don't
goal?
remember 94.
Golden goal? That was 2000.
Yeah,
No,
you're right.
Oh, was it?
2000,
It
yeah.
was.
The
2000.
Euro
98 was
I'll
the
never-
World
I'll
Cup, I
never
think,
forget
right?
that because I'll never forget that because they
Toldo was our
always
keeper.
replay. They always replay David Trezeguet taking his shirt off. I don't know why I have that
Right.
memory. It's always Trezeguet taking his shirt off. Can you play? Can you not play the goal? But anyway,
Well, I still remember watching the game with my father versus Korea, and my dad was like, "This game's fucking fixed." And
Same thing with my dad, actually.
my father was
Exact
just
same
like
thing.
adamant, like there's no change in his mind. He's like, "We always get fucked every goddamn World Cup and Euros. It's all freaking rigged." He goes.
And
guys
by
all
the
have
way,
money.
let me tell you guys why. And I was just a tad older than Rob, or I am just a tad older than Rob and Jerry, like a year older than Jerry. But why? Like one of the reasons why I remember the '94 World Cup so much. That's when I came to realize how psychotic my father is. My father born and raised in Italy. So my father became convinced that I was bad luck. And so when we're watching the final and the game wasn't going very well, like it ended up being, 0-0 up until penalties, but Brazil were creating most of the chances. And there was this like crazy moment where like Pagliuca, in goal just had this brain fart and he like deflected a ball off his hand. It should have gone in, but it went off the post. He got super lucky. And then right after that play, my father was like, "You can't watch the game with me anymore." So I'm a 9-year-old kid. He like sends me into like his bedroom with like a tiny like black and white TV, and I'm watching the match in there by myself. And then it's still not going well. And then he comes and says, "Why are you watching it?" I'm like, "Well, you already kicked me out there." He made me like go like sit in like the bathroom, and I couldn't watch he let me watch the penalty kick shootout. And then he regretted that because I think they lost it because of me. But that was when like I realized my father's a nutcase. Like it was crazy. But yeah, so we got off into a pretty incredible tangent there. I love it. But I want to bring it full circle.
I want to hold on. I want to
yeah,
just
go
say
ahead.
one point where Mo said about Baggio and Gianluca Pagliuca. But Gianluca Pagliuca, top 3 goalkeeper for Italy.
Amazing keeper.
Like, that guy was fucking outstanding.
And
like,
that was before.
Holy
dude,
shit!
Yeah, and Mo probably agrees with this because I know Mo is an Interista like I am. That was before Pagliuca got to Inter. I think they ended up buying him like a season or two after that. But I love Pagliuca so much. I remember when my father told me that he was going to Inter, I was so excited because I watched him in that World Cup.
And Roberto Baggio, I wish he made that goal, man. Like, I feel so bad for him. That guy there, it's unfortunate he was never able to win something. He didn't. I don't think he won with the Azzurri, right? If from what I recall,
No,
he wasn't part of the '82 team. But like,
no,
man, that guy was freaking unreal. One of our best players. Like, I wish we had that kind of guy tomorrow. Like, having a Baggio tomorrow would be so. My God, what he did with Juventus, like there are certain players. As much as I hate Juventus, there are certain players you just can't hate for how good they are, and you have to respect them for how talented they've been. Like Del Piero. Anybody who hates Del Piero needs to be sent off this earth and shot to the moon and don't come back, because don't let your Juventus biasness get into your way of your mind, because that guy was brilliant. There are certain players who play for teams that are just need to be respected for how good they've been overall. Like Baggio, can never shit on him, man. Like, what do you think? Best defender of all time for Italy? Nesta?
Maldini.
It's
Maldini?
yeah. I was gonna say it always comes down to Nesta or Maldini. I was about to say yeah. For me it was Maldini, but Nesta was right there, and also like Baresi. Don't forget about him either. Yeah.
I can never forget the Trezeguet golden goal was a cross that went right through Nesta's legs. I can remember it like it was yesterday. Not that, listen, I'm not blaming Nesta or anything like that, but it just has always stuck with me. Maldini for me, number 1.
Yeah,
And I'm not
no.
saying because he played for Lazio. I'm just.
We know you are. We know you are. It's okay.
The first
It's
guy
fine.
comes to
you
my
can
mind,
just admit
man.
it.
I think with Nesta that he was over aggressive, that players were able to do that at times, whereas Maldini was more conservative and more tactically sounded. That it was harder to beat him in those kind of plays. But what about hey Alex? What about Donnarumma tomorrow? Should we touch upon him? And did you guys see his little penalty shot save that went off him and into the net on Sunday?
It happens. I mean, I'm unlucky.
It does happen, but I think it's pretty obvious now that Maldini is probably in Ibiza at this very moment, just laughing his ass off at the situation that's unfolded. It's not. If you would ask Donnarumma right now if he's happy in Paris, I don't think he would say yes. Yeah.
Worst career movies ever made.
Yeah,
and it's all because like he allowed Raiola just to turn him into a robot. Where he even when he was asked, I'm going to screw up I'm sure every Milanista in the chat remembers the exact quote, but where he was like asked about, well, what's your future in Milan? He's like, oh, ask Raiola. It's like, well, I mean, come on, man.
We talk about form, right? You got a bad goal on Sunday, and I agree with Rob. It happens. Like, that's out of his control, but it doesn't help you psychologically. You got bounced from Champions League off a poor mistake. In the last 3 weeks, it hasn't gone good for him, and that goes now into the World Cup qualifying. Like that, I wonder if that even affects him tomorrow. Like, he really has to be on his game, and like. It's tough, man. Like I think the biggest mistake was him going there because Keylor Navas is a quality goalkeeper. Even if he's 35 years old, the guy's still a quality starter. And I think all around he went for the money. I get it. Who doesn't go for the money? But doesn't have a good agent. That doesn't help. And now look, he's hardly played this year, so that concerns me a bit.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't have a whole lot to add to that. You guys agree?
Who do they call up as our keepers? They have Donnarumma, Cranio.
I'm not even sure.
Sirigu's still there?
Yeah.
Sirigu, but he's the locker room presence.
Exactly. He's there for moral support.
Exactly.
Yeah. And who's the other idiot?
Not Murray.
Yeah, Murray. I think it's Murray. Yeah.
So bunch of guys who
I know Rob's looking at the squad right now. Rob's checking.
I mean, I think
I would start Cranio.
Yeah, I put Cranio in, but I really don't think that you're gonna. I don't think the main problem for you guys tomorrow is gonna be facing shots against Macedonia.
Pierluigi Golini.
Oh,
from Spurs.
Golini. Oh God,
he's not played. He's not played this.
I think I don't.
Tottenham, right?
Tottenham, right?
Yeah, and I think he's actually he's late 20s now too. I think as well. He's been around.
We're fucked, eh? The future Italy players are so bad. Holy shit, man! This is a guy Lazio wants to pay. Oh my God.
Donnarumma's 23 years old, though. I mean, like the guy's going to be the national keeper for another decade.
And he's been around forever too. It's like he really should be 30 by now because he started playing important matches at like 16 years old. It's insane how long he's been around already.
But I just
guy's been missing classes, like missing games because he had classes still. Like that's how young he was, and he was starting. You know what I mean? Like
he had like prom. He had to miss a game.
yeah.
Oh man, but I want to get
it. He's not playing at the San Siro, so that helps. He won't be booed tomorrow.
For sure. Exactly. Yeah, it's good. I mean, but Palermo's about as far away as you can get from the San Siro.
I'll never understand.
Probably good.
I can understand maybe if you're like Lazio or Roma or whatever and you're booing your player, there's the ultras. You can't control that. But when it's World Cup and your nation is playing, how does Milan get conflicted with the national team? It just bothers me because you're booing when you're trying to advance, and it didn't help him that game. I recall. It's just that kind of shit bothers me. But yeah, I know you want to talk about shit, Serie A. Go ahead.
Well, no. I just I was going to share the screen and I had it pulled up already by accident. So you could finish your thought. I was going
I'm
to do.
done.
I was going to. Okay, all right. So
I'm done.
there. So the last thing I want to get into before we wrap it up. I mean, obviously, the Serie A conversation, at least for the next handful of days, has cooled down a little bit on the international break. But I think we can all see this year. Let me enlarge it a little bit because at least on my screen, it looks really freaking tiny. So hold on. Let me enlarge that a little bit. Just so we could see, the race for the Scudetto, the race for the top four, although the top four right now have a big cushion over 5 and below. You've got Milan, who obviously have been very impressive, especially since they won the second derby against Inter, which could add, if they win the Scudetto, that's going to be a match that they look back on as really a turning point and being very, very critical. They have got 66 points to lead the table. Napoli behind them with 63. Inter, who do have a game in hand, but have been in just terrible form since their difficult month of February. They have not snapped out of it. In third place with 60 points. Juventus, fourth place, just a point behind. They do have the Derby d'Italia coming up after the international break, so that's going to really be an important matchup for both sides. And then on the outside, you've got Atalanta, Roma, Jerry's Lazio. So, I mean, guys, I want to go on the tail, and I guess let me just go in the order where we now sit on the screen here. And I'm sure Rob has some just unbelievable stats and odds and numbers to back it up. As I would assume that Milan are certainly the odds-on favorite at this point, with 8 match days left for them. Inter do have 9 match days, but 6 points now behind Milan. How do you think the top four, Rob, is going to look when we finish this thing?
So Milan is a slight favorite to win the Scudetto, slight favorite over Inter. Napoli's actually 3-1.
Really?
And then Juventus is 8-1. Personally, I still think Inter is going to win the Scudetto.
I disagree, but I love to hear it. I'm also very negative about my own team, so I'll
as
take
we
your
all
word
are.
for it,
I'm a Juve fan. I think they stink. I mean, that's just the nature, I think, of being a soccer fan, just in general. But listen, I'm very much an advanced stats guy. I do think that there's a ton of luck involved in sports. Whether or not, as fans, we want to believe that, there's just so much variance in any specific game. I watch Inter dominate teams sometimes, and then they just fall asleep for 2 minutes, balls in the back of the net. They have a tendency and a penchant to do that. I really thought they were going to run away with it when they got bounced from Champions League earlier this year. But if we just look at like expected goals in Serie A this season, Inter's expected goals are 66. They are so much better offensively than every other team. The next best team in Serie A in terms of expected goals is actually Roma with 53. So Inter offensively expected to score 13 more goals than every other team in the Serie A this year. Now, defensively, a different story. Napoli's been the best defensive squad in terms of expected goals, but Inter and AC Milan are very much level. So just from a pure expectation standpoint this year, if we look at what these teams should have been expected to be at based off of their production this year, Inter's expected to be in the lead right now at 60 points. Milan has outperformed their expectation by 12 points.
Wow.
I think Milan is getting quite lucky, personally. That's not to say that, there's other things that matter in soccer. And obviously you look at the run of recent form, they're playing well, but they seem to be scoring like what I will call non-repeatable goals, like a lot of highlight reel goals where you're just like, wow, like, well, what a great goal that was, but it's not something that tends to be repeatable game after game after game. So I still hold out hope for Inter. I hope they don't win. I can't stand Inter.
Hey, yeah, you're a Juventino.
Yeah, be completely honest with you, but I think they're the best team in Serie A, and I think Milan's enjoying a good run of form right now, and because of that, everybody's talking about them. I don't think Napoli is as deep as these squads, although, I mean, nothing would surprise me nowadays, but I still think Inter's the team to beat. I mean, they're one game in hand. They win that game. All it takes is them to win one more than Milan the rest of the way, and they're right back in it. So I like Inter's chances.
Well, what about you, Dharnish? You look at this table. How do you think the top four shakes out?
Honestly, I think it probably finishes how it is. That I honestly feel as though Milan have turned a big corner on the Pioli. They're not just challenging for the top four, or they're not just doing what they did last year, which was wow, we can't believe we're in a Scudetto title race. They're displaying in the last 4 or 5 games championship or Scudetto winning form, which is we actually are not playing that well today, but we're going to ground out a 1-0 win. And if you remember Antonio Conte's Inter last year, we're doing that in quite a few games. It wasn't always Hakimi, Lukaku, Martinez, Barella on fire, and we are going to overblow these teams. Some games, I particularly remember the 1-0 against Napoli, where it was just a lucky ground out win. But Milan are displaying championship form right now. Inter have almost basically imploded. They've only won 2 in their last 8. Mm-hmm. They probably have, I think, the easiest run out of all 3 of those teams in terms of they're playing teams in the lower half. Having said that, though, and I've seen a lot of Inter's games in the last 10 games, they look exhausted. They look fresh out of ideas. It feels as though it's not like the marathon of Scudetto is now being seen, because before Inter fans were saying, "Oh wow, this is such a great rebuild job done by Beppe Marotta, where we've lost Lukaku, we've lost Martinez, we've lost Conte, but we don't even feel that." And now, because when it comes to the dog days in the championship run, they actually are feeling that now. They just lack such a spark at the minute. I think Napoli are being dragged along by Victor Osimhen. I think he spearheaded their title charge superbly. They do have a difficult run, I think, though, coming up in the next sort of 6, 7, 8 games. But if you look at who's going to win Scudetto, I would say Milan.
Yeah, and by the way, I completely agree with what you said about the players that they lost. And yeah, for a time, like it looked like, hey, we're really not missing Lukaku and Hakimi. I never doubted for a second that Lukaku would be missed, right? Because Dzeko has had some good moments. He had a good run of form, I think, late 2021 before the calendar turned. But just 35-year-old, I knew he can't do that consistently over 3 competitions, right? I knew Lukaku would be missed, and I know he is missed. And I'm always puzzled by like a certain group of Interisti who are like, screw this guy, I wouldn't want to take him back. I'm not expecting him to come back, but I know that they're always, with the way things have gone for him at Chelsea, there are always going to be rumors and reports. If it were possible, I would take him back in a heartbeat to Inter, even without Conte. Maybe you'll never kind of recapture the exact same form he had, because he was so motivated for Conte, and Conte knew just how to keep him physically and mentally sharp. So he may never be the same guy again, even if he was back at Inter. But I think Serie A is the league for him. Jerry, what about you, my friend? What do you see on this table? How do you think it finishes?
Well, after the break, Napoli has Atalanta, and they have a tough fixture. And I think that game is going to be really difficult. They don't have Victor Osimhen. They don't have Rachmani due to suspensions. Di Lorenzo out at least for 3 games. Massive loss on that right side. Malquit has to come in now, and he hasn't looked good this season. Sparingly used. I think that's a big test, and if they drop points there, it's a big setback for them. So I think that game alone will test where Napoli kind of stands. And like Rob was saying, like they don't have the depth is not as strong there, but I think that will come into test right after the break. And then you have Fiorentina, you have Roma. Not an easy fixture list. It's tough. If I was a betting person, Rob knows me. I like to go with the underdogs. I like Juventus. I think that they are a dark horse, but they win ugly. They play dirty. And they have 15-game unbeaten streak in Serie A. I like to go. Here's the thing. I think Juventus has no pressure. There's no pressure on Juventus. Whatever happens. And they're just sitting in the back, coasting, playing what they have to.
And think about if they get all 3 points against Inter after the break, they're going to feel like they're right back in it. Like they're going to feel like, oh, we're in it. And then of course Inter is going to feel like, the world has ended. It's it's going to be great for one side, terrible for the other.
Here's how I see this. Inter, Simone Inzaghi, this guy can't play under the pressure, and he needs this. This is the most pressure he's ever going to be under in the next month or 2. Okay, at Lazio, when the pressure was against him, he cracked many times, and I get it. At Lazio, he didn't have the depth. Now he has the depth, and now time and time, his substitutions were always a disaster at Lazio. Always waiting until the 70th minute to bring on a player like he did this past weekend. Waits when 20 minutes left, let's bring on 5 guys, 1 shot, and hope for a miracle with Caicedo coming in the 90th minute. I think that it's really important Inzaghi goes back to the way he manages and doesn't overthink of what he has to do. That's where it's kind of have hurt him the last 2 games, where he's trying to do too much and he's overthinking things and it's not helping him. It all depends on Inzaghi for Inter, and he has to he has to understand that the Dzeko Martinez duel, it's not working anymore. It was a flash in the pan. It got to the. I know Rob might think different, and I know he's a stat guy, and he'll probably think that you roll with Dzeko because he's gotten the most goals for the team, and I'll probably go with that. But I think that Martinez has to come out, and you try something different, or you go vice versa. I would do one or the other and try something different with Correa, and it's to me it's just become too predictable with Inter now that they've been figured out, and a lot of teams are understanding how to play against them. And then you got Milan, where Rob's right, they've been fortunate in some wins, but I think the thing with Pioli is that he's got them playing as a collective unit where each player does their respective role. They play their game and they play as a team. And that's why they're very hard to break down and lately have conceded very few goals. It's tough, man. It's hard. If I had to pick a team in order to win it and after everything, I think that Milan hold their destiny and it's up to them. But then you have to remember there's even the Coppa Italia and does that affect Inter and Milan midweek and Juventus going into the weekend after? There's that too, right? So that's another play. I'll at the end of the day, I'll go with Rob. If I was a betting guy, I go Juventus. Hold on. I was going to say I'm going to contradict myself bad here.
You totally just
you can't pick yourself. You can't pick every team in the top 4 to win. That's not the way it works.
I'm giving scenarios, man. I'm just breaking down everything like how I see it. I said if I was a betting guy, absolutely Juventus. I think there's value there. And I know Rob would think there's no value because it's probably a 2% chance, but
dinosaur ball.
Yeah, but I would never bet Inter because there's really no money on them to win. But I'll go with Inter just because Simone Inzaghi. I'll go with Inter at the end of the day.
That might be the greatest answer in the history of podcasting. And so, Mass, I don't know how you top that, buddy, but I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, he really. It's going to be tough to leave an impression after that one. I'm okay with either of the Milan or Inter. Napoli, I don't think they have it in them. Also, I just don't want to see Napoli Twitter kind of just go off. It's just I feel like it's the average age
Milan.
group.
I would say Milan Twitter even worse though. Honestly, because Napoli Twitter is like 7 people. You know, and there's and didn't a guy recently get kicked off Twitter for being a creep? So there's 6 left.
Yeah. I'm so glad you brought that up because I think I'm sort of on the cusp of Calcio Twitter, but I'm sort of the English guy looking in. Dude, what was with this? So this guy was basically just being a creep, but tweeting about live blogging his thirst.
Yeah, which is so act like you've been there before.
It was wild.
Guy's never been laid before. What the hell happened?
I'll go anonymous. Someone talked to me about this anonymous. I don't want to say a name, but said, think about it. 22-year-old, very much immature. What were we all doing at 22 years old?
Yeah, I'm not putting it on Twitter.
That's not an excuse.
I was usually striking out if I'm being real here.
I was in boarding school.
Keep it in the group chat. Don't put it out on Twitter. I don't understand. What did they expect Calcio Twitter to applaud them? What are we throwing a parade? What are you doing?
No, you're right. But at 22 years, when we were 22, we didn't think about Twitter and fucking social media back then. That wasn't as big for us either. But I get what you're saying too. It's not. You don't do it. You're right.
Yeah.
I'm not
Still,
trying to give
would
him.
just wouldn't.
Okay, the equivalent
Just
then of when
wouldn't
you
put
guys
that
were
on
like
social
22, we
media.
would be like
Me,
Jerry, the equivalent would
me
be like you
egging
guys running
houses.
into a no, you run into an Italian cafe and you're just like, oh, like I banged someone, like you know what I mean, like pre-social media, just run into an Italian cafe where you know everyone and tell them like
I'm no
what
better,
is
man.
that?
I
don't know.
I'm no better. Rob knows me well. I'm no better.
Did that guy get kicked off Twitter then, or is he?
No, I
like,
think he
He
deleted
froze
his
his,
account.
he froze his
Yeah.
account. He froze
Is
it.
there like Calcio Twitter jail? And like someone's no.
I think
I don't know.
he turned himself in. I think he put himself in jail because he was getting bullied so much that he just was like, I can't do this right now.
Rightfully so, right? I mean,
Yeah.
come on.
Yeah.
Well, it's like Rob tells me a lot of the time too. You got to remember when you put something out there, it stays there, and even if you delete it,
Someone's gonna have a screenshot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like I found out about it from a Twitter group chat. I don't even think I followed that person, but they were putting screenshots of his deleted tweets in this group chat that I'm in, and I'm like, what the hell's happening here?
Yeah,
Crazy.
that was bad.
It was crazy.
Even when you delete a tweet, it stays there. You can
Yeah,
see
because somebody screenshotted it
you
for
can
sure.
still see it sometimes. That's weird, but
there are people out there who are like, and listen, I'm not defending what this guy was saying, but then there are people out there that are so far on the other side that they just live to dunk on people. Where the second they see a tweet that they think this might offend somebody, I'm going to screenshot this and I'm going to use it against that person. So like, again, like I'm not I thought it was incredibly creepy what the guy posted, but you always have to know if you post something questionable, there's going to be somebody who wants to humiliate you and they're going to screenshot it and use it against you. But continue, Mass. You were breaking down the table.
I see either the Milan's winning it. Obviously AC Milan has their destiny in their own hands. The only thing I do see changing is maybe the 4, 5, 6 spots. Roma does have both games won against Atalanta, and our schedule outside of Napoli and Inter after the international break isn't really that bad. We come back to Sampdoria, Salernitana, then it's Napoli, Fiorentina, Inter, and then Torino, and maybe Venezia somewhere in the middle of that. The problem is we need to be consistent. So I see Roma maybe finishing 5th versus 6th, maybe. Like I said, if we show up, like we look great on Sunday, but there's some games where it's like, what are we doing? And we somehow squeak away with a win.
Anybody looks good against Lazio, though. I wanted to say that because Lord Figo is thinking it. So
it didn't matter who fucking played Sunday against Lazio. Fucking Salernitana could have won Sunday. Okay.
Yeah, that team looked flat on Sunday. I watched that derby. I was really shocked that Lazio didn't put up more of a fight. But yeah, no, I see maybe the 4, 5, 6 spots switching more than anything. But the top 3, it's gonna be in any order. It'll be Milan, Napoli, Inter. It's just a matter of who can stay consistent and not drop too many points. Like I said, Milan has their destiny in their hands right now, so we'll see.
So we'll close it out on that note. I want to give our guests an opportunity to promote and plug anything you have going on. Like, Dharnish, I mentioned at the top, your incredibly entertaining podcast that you do. Let people know where they can find it.
Thank you. Yeah, it's on Spotify. It's for breakingthelines.com. So if you just type in Breaking the Lines on Spotify, Anchor, or Apple, it'll come up. Or you can go to my Twitter, which is my name, Dharnish Iqbal, DharnishiQbal. We do it every week. I think Alex should hopefully come on it next week. If I hear you're finally out of jury duty, so
yeah, man. I was in for a full freaking week.
over.
I was on a jury, and boy, did we hand that woman an L. I mean, you don't want me on your jury. If you're trying to sue somebody, you want to make sure I'm not on your jury, bro. I was the jury foreman. Ooh. So yeah. Let's go. Go ahead.
Formula One. Quick take.
I'll let Mass handle this. I haven't watched a race since I was like 9 years old.
Oh man, I'm excited for this race. Ferrari finally looks like they're back, but I mean it's the first 2 races now, so we'll see. But Red Bull's power unit looks awful. How does it just turn off in the middle of a race like that? That's nuts. It's still too early to talk Formula One. Right now, I'm happy that Ferrari looks like they're back. So
exactly.
I'm gonna go with that.
don't overreact to one race. Obviously,
Yeah.
like Mercedes is going to figure it out at some point. They're not going to have the car that's bouncing all over the track forever. Like at some point,
No,
they're
there's
gonna
no
figure it
way.
out. Yeah. So, I mean, at least it's competitive, and it looks like a 3-team race this year rather than a 2-team race.
Two-team race, and
yeah.
the middle of the pack looks good. I'm really surprised McLaren looks as bad as they do right now, but they'll figure something out.
Yep.
Well, I'm just excited that finally we can watch Ferrari try to compete for first. That's all I can say. Like, we don't know if this is going to be like consistent for Ferrari and Formula One this season, but I think that there's light ahead of the tunnel now. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this finally for the first time we can say that Ferrari is back in the same league for now. Like Rob said, I'm not worried about Red Bull. I can't stand Christian Horner. I think that guy's a piece of shit, to be honest. I hope you're listening to this. You fucking
Oh my
miserable,
God.
you miserable.
Oh, no, he's
fuck.
bad.
Miserable
He's bad.
fuck, man. I understand. I hate Mercedes.
He
winning.
seems petty.
Yeah, I don't like Mercedes winning 7 years in a row. Don't get me wrong. No one wants to see the same winner. You want to see a different winner. And I get Horner's probably jealous that he didn't win and it's Mercedes always winning. But man, to hate a guy that bad, like always, maybe it's just the Netflix series that makes me hate him. But like, every time I see Toto Wolff, I love the guy. I love his accent. First off, I think the guy's a genius. Love his accent.
Love his accent.
Freaking guy's a genius.
Schwarzenegger accent.
Jerry's freaking killing me because I got to go to bed. And I know I'm saying this for Dharnish, it's like 6 a.m. I got to go to bed. I got to wake up very early with my son.
Bro, I'll end it at this.
Jerry, let us out, man.
I'll end it here. Remember,
Jerry won't let us out.
When Mercedes lost that day, what did Toto Wolff do that night? The guy went to a fucking rave and had a great time, man. Fucking.
I muted Jerry.
Good call. Everyone, I'll give you 2 minutes to promote what you got to promote. How about that Formula One, guys?
Jerry, you there?
So Jerry, you're back.
You know, you can go to bed and fucking have dreams of your Tyree.
Jerry,
fucking Tyreek Hill.
I'm so tired. Jerry, let the people know where they can find your work. Are you writing this week?
No, I'm not writing nothing. I fucking don't care. I'm just watching the game tomorrow, and that's it. I don't give a shit.
We would have done.
Oops.
We would have gone another hour on Formula One. I'm telling you.
Oh, for sure.
I love
Probably.
you, Jerry. I love you. Oh man, what about you, Mass?
Right now, I got a couple things on hold, but if you guys want to catch me on Twitter, all things sports and culture, my Twitter handle's there. It's at Mass MASRICCIO, and that's pretty much it.
Rob Pizzola, how about you, my friend?
Yep. You can follow me on Twitter at my name, Rob Pizzola. I'm not a traditional soccer guy. I'm more of a traditional bettor. I know there's probably a lot of people here that do bet on soccer. If you do, just download my app. It's called BetStamp, or you can check out the website, betstamp.app. Basically, whenever you're going to bet on a soccer game, just hit up BetStamp. It's going to tell you which sportsbook has the best line. In the long run, it's your best path to success, to becoming a winning sports bettor. So just check that out. It's a pretty good utility for soccer bettors.
I love it. Yeah, and you can check out our channel here. If you haven't already, hit the like button, the thumbs up button, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, subscribe to our audio podcast channel as well. You can find us Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your pods. Just search Calcio Connection. Hit the subscribe button. It's a huge help for us. We do have a Patreon page if you want to make any donations to help the channel, patreon.com/Calcio Connection. I need to step it up again with the exclusive content because I have been doing some Inter content on the Patreon. I want to step it up again. Inter have just been so depressing lately. I have not been motivated to do like an Inter specific Patreon episode. So we will get back to it very, very soon, my friends. But yeah. Fuck you. For Jerry,
go to
Rob.
Let's meet me $500 on fucking Super Bowl.
Who?
Take his bets. This guy won me $500 for Super
Rob?
Bowl. Man. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take Rob's bets any day.
$500, man.
I will take Rob's bets any day.
Just remember that.
Rob is the man. So yeah,
Give me money, not betting Inter. Don't worry.
For Jerry, for Rob, for Mass, for Dharnish, thank you guys so much. And we will talk to everyone again on the next episode of the Calcio Connection podcast.